Speakers. Our next speaker is also a special one. She is a fellow Stanford student, a Stanford undergraduate, Catarina Buchatski, who just came back from Ukraine, where she helped bring equipment to museums and also help people on the ground at the border and in Ukraine itself. Thank you, and please welcome Catarina Buchatski.
Hi guys, I'm Catarina, and as was just mentioned, I came back from Ukraine just a few days ago. I was in Poland for the past few months, traveling in and out of Ukraine, and I want to talk a little bit about the side of the war that I feel isn't talked about enough, and that is the cultural side of this war. I think that when Putin made his declaration of war on February 24th, one of the key components of his declaration on the war in Ukraine is this historical war and the war on Ukraine's very existence. And as we've seen for the past 2 months, this has very quickly evolved into a genocide, not only a cultural genocide, but a genocide of all scales. And one of the things that I've been working on while I've been in Poland, while I've been at the museums, is speaking with Ukrainian museums. And they've actually been telling us that, especially in eastern Ukraine, Russian occupants have actually been stealing from museums and taking things back into Russia. They've been destroying monuments. They've been replacing monuments from Ukrainian monuments to monuments of Lenin. They've been putting up Soviet symbols again. And essentially, they're trying to erase Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian cultural heritage. And this is a crucial part of this war because at its very core, it's the destroying of Ukrainian identity. And if we want Ukraine to win the war, we need to win the war not only territorially and militarily, but we need to win the cultural war as well. Because what's going to be left of Ukraine after we win the war? That is kind of the cultural question, because when we start to rebuild, we need to be able to rebuild with our identity intact, with our culture intact, with our history intact, and we need to make sure that they can't erase us not only geographically and territorially, but can't erase our history and the voices of our ancestors. And so over the past few months, I've been traveling in and out of Ukraine, going to these museums and trying to help with the equipment because a lot of it is in danger of being erased. And that's centuries of history and centuries of stories from all of our ancestors that are in danger of just disappearing into thin air. And so I've been working there as the co-founder of the Shadows Project, and I think that the cultural side of this war is something that is going to be really the deciding factor on what Ukraine's future is going to look like. And I think that, as McFall has already said, as a lot of our speakers have already said, Ukraine is going to win this war. We might lose some battles, but we will win the war. And the cultural question is going to decide what our future is going to look like after the war is over. And so if you're interested in helping out with the initiative to protect Ukrainian museums and get protective equipment to protect our art and artifacts, then you can take a look at the initiative on saveua.art. And this is the only way that we ensure that not only the Ukrainian people survive today, but also our ancestors before us survive with us. And these centuries of stories and centuries of what it means of being Ukrainian survives along with us. And we can tell our stories for our future and shape a future as Ukraine and keep our identity intact. So, thank you.